Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tejano virtual events. Thank you all for coming today. Today, we're going to have some great information to share with you. In today's session, we'll be learning about the EPCC Culinary Arts with Chef Nickerson. Before I hand it over to our presenter, I would like to mention that this session will be recorded so you and others who have missed out on today's events will be able to come and watch it. Also, this event will provide Tejano passport points. We will post the code on the chat towards the end of the session. If you have any questions on Tejano passport points, please let us know at the end when we will be happy to answer any of your questions. So now, please at this time, mute your mics for the best sound experience. Otherwise, the feedback could interfere with the information we're about to share with you today. Without further ado, I will hand it over to our presenter. Thank you. Chef Nickerson, whenever you're ready.
Okay, can you guys see me and hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chef Nickerson. I'm one of the coordinators here at the Culinary Arts and Applied Sciences Department. We're located in the ASC building. So the topic I'm covering today, along with I'm going to go over information about the Culinary Arts program, is what to do with Thanksgiving leftovers. So that's part of what we're going to cover today because we all end up next week. So in about a little less than a week from now, we're going to have all of our turkey, all of our other stuff together. And then there's looking at it going, what are we going to do with this besides just making a whole bunch of turkey sandwiches? So that's going to be what I'm going to go over about using the ingredients and the items that you probably have left over from Thanksgiving in order to repurpose or repurpose into a different dish as well. So the first part of it, so what we're going to set up is going to be a turkey shepherd's pie. So if you've ever had a shepherd's pie before, traditionally it's from the Great Britain area, and they would stew just like either beef or mutton, which is like sheep meat, with some vegetables. They'd stew it till it was tender, and they would just top it with some potatoes, and then they would bake it in the oven. And so we're going to do a similar version of that, but we're going to refine some of the different processes that we're doing with that. So the first part, I'm just going to move my camera down in order to show over the mise en place that we have. So mise en place, anytime we refer to that in culinary arts, all we're talking about is our ingredients. A lot of culinary terms are derived from French because the French, and specifically Chef Escoffier, were the people who standardized the kind of culinary terms, set up the processes in order to make things a lot more consistent. So when I say mise en place, I'm just referring to the ingredients. It translates literally to everything in its place, something along those lines. But what we're referring to is just like having everything together here. So just tilt my camera down here just so you can sort of have a better view of what's going on. So if we're going to make shepherd's pie, our primary ingredients we have, one is our turkey. It's going to work best with dark meat. You can use the breast meat for it, but dark meat is going to work a little bit better, and I'll explain why. We also have some mirepoix here, or some carrots, celery, and onion. So mirepoix traditionally is just these three things: carrots, celery, and onion, in a ratio of 2 parts onion to 1 part celery to 1 part carrot. We have some mushrooms here. I have some chopped parsley as well, any kind of herbs. We have some of our salt and pepper in this area. And then we have our leftover mashed potatoes that we would have had from Thanksgiving. And then we have eggs as well for making our topping for our shepherd's pie. So with this kind of dish or this kind of recipe, it has a lot of open interpretation to how you want to do it. So I'm setting it up with the mushrooms and the carrots, onion, and celery, but you could use different vegetables in the base for this dish if you want to. Because what we're going to do is we're just going to take our turkey meat, we're going to clean it, we're going to stew it with our vegetables, and then we're going to top it with our mashed potatoes that we're going to mix with some egg yolks. And we're mixing the egg yolks in because when that bakes in the potato, it's going to cause it to puff or to lighten up a bit, so you don't have a thick, dense mashed potato. You will get a little more of an airier finished product. But you could do it with turnips, you could do it with beets, you could do it with greens that you would stew. Kale would work pretty well. So you have a lot of different options as far as what you put in the base for it. But the ideal thing is you're going to have your turkey meat, vegetables, and then you're going to have your mashed potato topping. If you want to set it up vegetarian, you could. If you just wanted to do a whole array of vegetables in there, do the mashed potato topping, that's all entirely up to you. So the first part, what we need to get started first, is we're going to get our vegetables and everything sauteed. So I'm going to move this over here just so everyone can see a little bit better. All right, so I have this pan right in here. And one benefit of this kind of dish too is that you can take it and whatever pan you want to cook your items in, saute your items in, that's what you want to bake in. So cast iron works really well for this kind of dish because you can bake this in the oven without any problem. So we're taking that, and the first step is we're just going to get our pan hot. And when you saute something, you always want to start out, get your pan hot first, and before you add any of your oil to it or any kind of fat. I'm using blended oil. You can use canola oil. I'd stay away from vegetable oil, but rapeseed oil is really good as well. Olive oil is not as good for something like this. Or butter will also work fine too. You just need some kind of fat to keep your items from sticking. So we're going to put this around in the pan after we get it hot, and then we want to allow our oil to heat as well. And the reason why you do it in those steps too, because if you just put your pan and your oil at the same time and then turn it on, you're not creating layers. So you have to do heat source layers when you saute anything. So you need to get your pan hot and then add your fat, and so they're separated. If you put them in at the same time and heat it, then they heat up at the same time. And when you add any kind of product to that, it's going to stick to the pan. And that's when you're going to have stuff and you're going to end up with a messy pan at the end. So with this too, I'm getting my oil heated up. And I don't know if you can see it that well, but when the oil has like a shimmer and it moves and it has like little streaks in it, that's when your oil is ready for you to add your items. So I'm just adding my mirepoix to that, or my onion, carrot, and celery. And when you put it in, you want to hear the pan sizzle too. You don't want to not hear any noise. But we all are familiar with what it sounds like when our product is simmering. And put a decent amount of vegetables in this, because it's going to be the majority of your base. So, I just covered the bottom of the pan like this. And every step of the way you want to do season. So, I have my kosher salt here. And you can take it, you do want to season high. And you do that because if I season in one spot, that spot gets a lot of salt. You season high, the salt more falls like rain and you get more even coverage throughout it. Same thing with your pepper. Salt that on there as well. So I'm going to get that going, and all we really want to do is sweat this. And we're going to sweat it because that's going to start to release the natural oils in the vegetable product and start to soften it. You don't want to go in cold for this, because if you go in cold, it's never going to cook all the way. So we have that, and now I'm just adding these mushrooms to it as well. If you had cooked off mushrooms from your Thanksgiving dinner, you can just throw that in there, and that's going to work fine too. So I'm getting these all in here as well. Again, I'm going to season it, seasoning it a little high so the salt coats it evenly. And when you're seasoning too, just as important as well, if you're using all fresh product or fresh vegetables, it doesn't have any salt in it. If you're using anything that's pre-processed, just be aware that you do have a lot more sodium content, maybe a lot more MSG, and you need to adjust your salts accordingly. And so typically, I use I just use primarily kosher salt for what I'm doing, just because kosher salt has a large crystal to it, and it melts throughout that. And so it's a very nice one to use. Sea salt is also very good as well. A lot of times that's going to be a little bit finer. If you're using any kind of protein at all, kosher salt does typically work really well because the larger crystals of your kosher salt will penetrate deeper into the protein and give you a more even seasoning. If you use like a finer ground, like sea salt, it'll season the outside of it, but it doesn't penetrate as deeply into your protein. Table salt is not good to use. That's not going to give you a very good finished flavor. And also, like, nothing should taste salty. Salt is there to enhance flavor. It's not there to have it taste very salty in the end. So for this, I have the cooked off chicken thigh meat that we have. I like using dark meat for this because it just stews a lot better. It has a little bit fattier process to it, so it stays moist for this kind of cooking. And so when you're doing this, so I'm just taking this turkey meat off the bone and just getting that on there. And so at this point too, you have your big chunks of meat, but you want to think about how your guests are going to eat this in the end. Because if you put a piece like, even like something like this in there, that's going to be difficult to eat. So they're going to have to take it and then they're going to have to like cut into it. And you want the guests to be able to get everything that's in your meal in one spoonful without putting the least amount of effort possible for that. So you want to take it, after you take it off, you don't need to shred it. You do want it to be in chunks. You don't want it to be in like fine things. And just take your knife and just gently just go through and then just cut it into bigger chunks. Like this will work pretty well for what you're trying to do. And again, this is already cooked, so all we're really trying to do is warm it overall. So we have our turkey that we're adding in here. And we're just going to take this, and we have our mushrooms and all our items, and we're just going to add our turkey meat in here. So again with this was just one turkey thigh. There's about 1 cup of mushrooms cut up and about a half a cup of onion, carrot, and celery. And so this will still make a pretty full-size meal overall. So after we get that in there, we're going to take it. And so since the turkey meat's already cooked, we're just trying to heat it. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of, this is just vegetable stock. You can use chicken stock, chicken broth. If you have leftover gravy, just use any of that for this. And you're just introducing some moisture to it, to your finished product in the end, and also helping it heat all the way through, and just allowing the flavors to develop. And so at this point, we're going to work on our Duchess potatoes. So our Duchess potatoes, we just have our leftover mashed potatoes here, and we're going to mix in just egg yolks to it. So when we mix in our egg yolks, we do want to beat them to go into that. So traditionally, Duchess potatoes is just made with mashed potatoes without any cream in it, and then you just add the egg yolks and the butter. You do that, you're going to get a much more lighter, fluffier feel. But if you do it mashed potatoes, it's not going to puff as much, but you'll still get a better finished product in the end overall. So we do need to separate our eggs. So we want to get just our egg yolks out of this. So when you're doing this too, just take your egg, and you just want to take it and just beat it on the side. You don't want to hit the top and the bottom. You can just take it, just crack the side, and then open up the egg like this, and just allow the white to go around it. And just like you can go back and forth between your egg shell to just separate out your egg yolk. Same thing with the next one. So again, just open up the egg, just tap it lightly on the side, and you can just move this back and forth. This is a lot cleaner way to do it than just using your hands to separate out your egg yolks. So we're going to just get this all separated together. And we'll do our last one here. And definitely save your egg whites. You can use this for any other kind of application. Like if you're going to make an angel food cake, you want to have this on hand. These freeze really well too. You can take them like this, freeze them, take them out, thaw them, and it's like it doesn't degrade or affect the quality of your finished product whatsoever. Eggs are also, everything's really expensive now, but the price of eggs has gone up a lot, so you don't really want to waste anything. So at the end, we have our 4 egg yolks in here. So that was just separating that out. We're just going to beat this together just lightly. We just want to make them a little bit fluffy before we fold them into our potatoes. So we have our mashed potatoes here, and we're going to just mix in our 4 egg yolks. So the quantity that we're using for this is about 2 cups of mashed potatoes and 4 egg yolks. So essentially you can look at it, for every 1 cup of mashed potatoes, you want to use 2 egg yolks in that. And with this, we're just going to fold all of this into it. So at this point too, you do want to make sure your mashed potatoes taste good before you start, because after you fold your eggs in here, you really don't want to try this because it is raw eggs, and that can potentially make you sick if you're just taste this out at this point in time. So we have our egg yolks in here. And when you fold something too, just to even go through this process of it, you want to go under the center of the bowl and then fold around. So you want to go under and around, mix it under and around. You don't want to like beat it like this, because if you beat it like that, potato is a starch, and it's going to make it seize up, and you're going to get a much tougher product. So you want to do it gently to get everything incorporated in there. So you just have a smoother, finished product overall in the end. So we have our Duchess potato ready. We have our turkey simmering right here. I'm going to mix in some of the fresh herbs into this. So this is just parsley, but you can use any other kind of herbs that you want when you fold all that stuff into it. So I'm just going to get some of my stuff cleaned up and out of the way here. But right now, we're just allowing this just to stew down here. So we have our fresh herbs in here. Again, you could use dry herbs, like dried rosemary would work really well, dried thyme, a combination of that. If you have an dried herb blend that you like, you can use that as well. But it's just going to add a little more flavor and structure and profile to it. So you don't want this to be like a soup when it goes in, because when you bake it, you're not going to get, it's not going to remove any excess moisture, because it's going to have a potato lid on it, and that's just going to make it soggy in the end. So right now, we're just going to have it, and we're just going to reduce this down until it's dry. Or sometimes you might read it, it might say à sec or something along those lines. And à sec is just the French word for dry, kind of like the Spanish word for seco. And so we're just going to let that simmer down like that. So this is just like allowing all of the flavors between the turkey, the mushrooms, and the mirepoix. It's just like simmering together, it's stewing together, and that's just helping us develop our flavor profile. So this is just simmering for a second. I can't really see the chat box or anything. So does anyone have any questions at the moment before we finish topping this and start baking it?
I don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay. Are there any comments I need to address or anything like that? Like, hey, chef, you're talking too fast or anything?
No, everybody seems quite content.
Okay. Now, sometimes I tend to talk fast. My students can tell you that because they see me come into class in the morning and I've already drank a whole bunch of coffee and I get really, really active and very hyper. So just wanted to double check that. Okay, so, and again with this as well, this is just taking a lot of ingredients, a lot of items, a lot of product that you probably already have left over from your Thanksgiving dinner. So you probably have mashed potatoes left over. You probably, usually most people have turkey left over, but you all probably have some vegetable components as well. If you have any jus left over from roasting the turkey, you can use that instead of a stock in here, just to repurpose all those items into like a new or separate dish. For me, I like turkey sandwiches just as much as everybody else. However, you kind of get tired of them after like the third or fourth day of it. So this has to do with just using those items in order to make something a little bit different. And also with this as well, so I had the mushrooms and the mirepoix, the onion, carrot, and celery. You use turnips, Brussels sprouts work really well. A lot of like root vegetables are also going to work very good in this too. But my personal favorite is mushrooms. Like I like doing like an assortment of mushrooms in this, and then just topping it with the mashed potatoes or the palm puree after that. So we're sitting here. We have this. It's getting almost to the point where it's getting dry, or we're reduced down to stock sec. And pretty much just move it out of the way in your saute pan here. All right, see if I can get a better angle on it there. Okay. So we have this here. So this has everything in it. And if you move it out of the way like that, you can still see any liquid you have at the bottom. And so that's what we're trying to make sure that it's completely dry from that. So we have all this stuff going here. It's almost there. But again, like you could just put all this together without any stock and put the potatoes on top, but it's going this extra step, essentially this extra like 20 minutes in order to fully develop your flavors, because you're allowing all this stuff to blend together. So it's almost complete, it's almost dry. So all of this stuff has like absorbed the flavors from like the stock, and we are going to take it now and start getting our Duchess potatoes on top. Okay,
Chef,
so we have that. Yeah.
we have a question. They want to know if
Sure.
you use different mushrooms, will it cook at different speeds?
No, it won't, because what we're doing is the thing with shepherd's pie is everything is cooked when it goes into the oven. So the potatoes are the turkey, the mushrooms, the vegetables are all already cooked. You don't want to put it in raw, because at that point it's not going to cook it. You're kind of like heating it all the way through. So yeah, if you have different mushrooms, like different mushrooms themselves will cook in different times. But if you're doing like this item where you're sauteing it and adding your stock, you're just cooking them down until they just start to get like soft. So they don't. So this is just button mushrooms. If you're using something different that has a lot more body to it, like if you're using like royal trumpets or something like that, they may take a little bit longer to cook in this process. So that's one aspect, and that's a good question too. It also just depends on the size of your vegetable cuts. So this right here, we just use like a small dice of the onions, carrots, and celery, or the mirepoix. But if you use a lot bigger dice, if you have bigger chunks like this, like that's going to take a lot longer just to cook. But you do want to make sure everything is cooked in here before it goes in, which is why this is a good dish to do with any leftover vegetables you have, because that was already cooked. So all you really want to do is like kind of reheat it. And that's the thing with this dish too. Like I got it hot, but you could start with all of it cold as long as it's cooked and put it in the oven. It's just going to take a lot longer to bake. So you do want this to start out warm when you do that. So again, we have this in here, and I put enough stuff just so it covers almost about a third of the way up in the pan, which is pretty a good range on top of that. So again, so this was your Duchess potatoes here, was your mashed potatoes with the egg yolks. And again, that was for every cup of potatoes, I put in 2 egg yolks. And so with this, I'll take it, and we'll just start putting it on and just gently spreading it around. And so you don't want it to mix in. You want to have a layer of the potato and then a layer of your meat right below that. So it should be set up about like this. So right here, with a pan this size, so this cast iron pan is about, looks like it's an 8-inch cast iron pan. That took 2 cups. If you're going to use the bigger 12-inch ones, you probably want to use 3 cups of potatoes to cover it entirely. And then you want to gently spread your potatoes around the outside of it. So the pan is already hot too, which is nice, but you can use this to sort of form, you want it to be as even as possible, going around like this. And then at this point too, we can take it, and if you have any cheese you want to add on to it, we'll put the cheese on about halfway through. So if you have Parmesan, is really nice. I like using cheese like cotija is really good for it too. But I'm going to take this. I don't have an oven right here, so I have to walk it over to the other oven. So I'll be back in just a second. But you drop this in the oven. So I'm putting it in the oven at 375 degrees. And then it's probably going to take about a good 40 minutes to bake and set up. I understand the session is a little bit shorter than that, but I also have one going in advance to see the final product. So we have it set up like that. So you want to gently spread the potatoes on it all the way around. So we have the layer. So up to about here in the pan was the turkey meat, and then you have the potatoes above that. They're almost like in equal portions too. So we had an equal amount of our turkey and our vegetables, and an equal amount of potatoes on top of that. So let me just drop this in the pan, up in the oven. I'll be right back. Okay, so that will probably take about 40 minutes roughly at 375 to bake, and I'll show you a finished product here in a second. But we can go into some questions right now too, so if you have a question, you can just jump in. But I'm just going to go into also doing some just information about the Culinary Arts program, if you all aren't familiar with it. So we are, sorry, I got to move this camera back. So we're located in the ASCB building. So we're right across the street from where the president and all the vice presidents are. In our building too, we have what's referred to as the TIERS programs, or the Institute of Executive Resort Services. So besides culinary arts, we do also have the hospitality and travel and tourism programs are also housed in the ASCB building, along with the cosmetology program as well. And then we also have some of the continuing education programs that include like the nail technology and massage therapy programs too. And then there's a variety of other things having to do with EMT services that's run out of AVP Primazic's office. So there's those programs as well that are in here too. We also have the Small Business Development Center, which is also on the first floor. So they help out a lot of small local businesses getting their items together in order to put whatever their dream is into reality. So if you all are familiar with Dead Beach Brewery, they help them get all of their business plan and everything together for their startup too. They're very, very helpful. They also will come and do presentations for students in the Culinary Arts program about how to start a small business. Because we have a number of students in the program. They all come in with their different ideas and dreams. Maybe they want to start a food truck, maybe they want to do their own bakery or their own cake decorating business. So the Small Business Development Center is very helpful, coming and talking to them about actually what that takes and everything you have to do in order to get that off the ground. So that they have a pretty good, eyes wide open expectations on what's going to happen with that. So they're also housed in this building as well. We have the testing center, the GED program is also here too. But within the TIERS programs, so us, cosmetology, nail check, and the massage therapy ones, all of us do have services that are available to the public. And they're available to the public because it is very beneficial for the students in each of our programs to have practice with the things that they're doing. So in Culinary Arts, we do have the Dine and Dash Cafe that's currently open Monday through Thursday. And it primarily does sandwiches, soups, pastries. They'll have a lunch special, and it's staffed by students from our practicum program, like the work experience or internship part of the Culinary Arts program. They also have it also has a small staff as well. Chef Santiago Reyes just took over as SCS manager. If you're familiar with Around the World Catering or the Taco Shop restaurants, he was the owner of those ventures as well, and he decided he has wanted to move into working in the education field. So he just started as an SCS manager about a month ago. He was also a graduate of the Culinary Arts program too. So besides that, they do have Culinary Arts does do catering services. That is. It's part of our service learning hours that we do in the program. So all the students are required to do, we get assigned point values, but they do some of the catering functions in order to take some of the things they're doing in practice out in their classrooms, but to apply it in a more real setting. And so those kind of catering services, they are limited, they are bracketed. We do have like time periods where we can't do catered events simply because it's the first week of classes, it's finals week. We don't take on events during that time period just because the students that we have, they're in their first week of classes, they're getting acclimated, they're going over the syllabus, or they're doing finals week, or they're working on their final exams and final projects. So there's a lot to do with that process there. There's like some limitations on that, but we do have those available, and that's something that you would contact also Chef Santiago Reyes about too, because you'd be handling that area. Then we do have the 1309 restaurant, and that offers a more fine dining experience. So that is a class in the Culinary Arts program that's offered 3 semesters. Each one will get progressively more difficult and more involved. So we don't have a set schedule for that, which I know it causes a lot of our guests frustration too, because it's kind of difficult to plan ahead because the classes are going to be dependent on student registration. So typically right now, we are booked throughout the rest of the fall semester, but we will start having dinner services again the last Thursday in January, I believe it is. And we'll start taking reservations around January 20th. So that usually is a set price per guest, and it will involve multiple courses. So right now it's 5 courses, it's $25 a person. When we go into the spring semester, that's like typically the students that are in that program, it's their capstone course. So this should be like their last semester that they're in. And that will be $35 a person, but we are going to do a 7-course tasting menu with options between each course. And a lot of just to provide the students with as widest a range of experience possible while they're here. So we offer that service. There are those 3 services: the Dine and Dash Cafe, that's open Monday through Friday, more for like lunch items, sandwiches, soups, pastry items, and then there's usually a lunch special. And if anybody ever wondered, like, what do we do with all the product we make in our classes and our labs? Like, we evaluated, the students go through it as a learning experience, and everything that is sellable and good we will use in our Dine and Dash Cafe. So that's where a lot of that product goes. We also have the catering services that's run by Chef Santiago Reyes, and then we have the 1309 restaurant as well. So that's what we do. The cosmetology program is open, so the students in that program, they do have to do, I can't remember the exact number, but it might be somewhere around 750 practice hours for their to be licensed to practice in the state of Texas. So they greatly benefit from people coming in to get their hair cut. So if you're looking for that, and it is under the direction of an instructor, so you're not just like rolling the dice about getting your hair cut or hair done there. But they do offer that service as well. The instructors in the cosmetology program have also told me too, it's very important that their students learn how to develop relationships with the clients that they have coming in. Because some of those clients, if they find a hairstylist they particularly like, they will stay with them for years. And as I learned, that a lot of people, if they go to a hair salon, they don't go to a salon, they go to a person. If that person moves somewhere else, they're going to go somewhere else. And that's the other reason why the cosmetology program offers that service, is so that their students can develop some of those relationships, and hopefully when they go out and start, they can have a little bit of a base clientele that they're working with that's very beneficial for them. The nail tech and the massage therapy programs also offer nail services, massage services as well. I've never done anything these personally, but I know they have it, and I know they book up fast too. So that's just some of the stuff that is offered and available in the ASCB building.
Jeff,
So I encourage everybody to check that out. Yes, ma'am.
they have a question. Is there any plans to have 1309 evening hours?
Yes, we have been doing evening hours this semester. The class, we did have a Thursday evening restaurant service, and we will again in the spring semester. We have 2 classes that are already full. So starting, I can't remember exactly, but it's the last week. I can't remember the day, but it's the last Thursday in January. We'll have services for 6 weeks. On Thursday evening, 6 consecutive weeks. Then we have our finals week, and then we'll start up the second mini-mester class, where we'll have the first week where we're going to do the introduction, the syllabus, get some stuff done, and then we'll do 6 services again. So that's all definitely planned already for the spring semester. So there will be 12 services total. The best way to get information about that is there is the email, the 1309. The restaurant has its own email account, and it's just 1309 spelled out at epcc.edu. When it's spelled out as well, it's 13 all caps, the letter O, and then the number 9. So it's not 1309, 1309. If you email that, wait till about January to do it. I can send you like the menu and what we're going to be doing and the hours that we're going to have. You can also make reservations via the email site as well, along with calling the line. The one thing with calling the restaurant too is that it's not a restaurant where we're open 7 days a week and there's a host up there. We're checking the reservations usually like once a day. So when you do call, you might not get a call back for like 24 to 36 hours, depending on when you call. Or if it's Saturday, there's no one in there, so we won't get back until like Monday or Tuesday. So I do understand that is frustrating, but we're doing the best we can with that. But I would just encourage everybody to definitely email, because I typically will check that daily and get back to you. Do you have other questions though about the 1309 restaurant?
Not 1309. One of the students asked, is it better to cook with stainless steel bowls rather than using glass or plastic?
Yes, stainless steel bowls are better to do with glass and plastic. And that's mainly because they can conduct temperature better, and they're more uniform too. Well, I mean, like for cooking, yes. If you're just mixing product, like I mix the potatoes in a stainless steel bowl, but like that's fine for glass or plastic. That one doesn't neither here nor there. But if you're going to do something like you're cooking eggs and you have to do it over a water bath, you definitely want that to be a stainless steel product. You don't want that to be a glass item or a plastic item. Um, and for your, and even just a bridge off of that for saute pans, pots, any of that stuff as well. Like you have typically, you're going to have like different options. So you have aluminum, stainless steel, copper, and then you have some hybrid versions of all of that. Most aluminum, the difference between them is just how they conduct heat. So one thing that's nice about aluminum is it conducts heat uniformly. So your fire on your saute area, like all comes up in one location. It doesn't come up in like an evenly coat the bottom of a pan. It comes up in like a ring. So on an aluminum pan or copper pan as well, you can take it and that's going to heat the metal product uniformly, so you're going to have an even sear. If you do stainless steel, it heats in the one spot where the flame is hitting, and then does not go as even around. It'll dissipate the different areas. So stainless steel is uneven. So what you'll see a lot too is like it'll say like stainless steel with a copper core, because copper, the same as aluminum, heats uniformly. What's nice about stainless steel as opposed to aluminum is very pliable. So if it's hot and you put cold water on it, it's going to warp your pan and it's going to mess it up. So they're inexpensive to buy, but they're also it's just a cheaper material and it's not very durable. So stainless steel is much more durable, but then you have to deal with that heating aspect for there. I saw a question about making bread. What was that? I don't know what that's referring to exactly.
What material do you recommend for making bread? Like, do you recommend stainless steel, aluminum, or what kind of pan do you recommend?
Oh, for pan, I would recommend using a stainless steel one because it just won't warp. That's what I would do. But most loaf pans that you get in the store, those are going to work fairly fine too. The disposable ones don't work as well. So if you're getting one of those, that's not going to be as good for your finished product in the end for your various bread making. But, so what other questions do you guys have?
I don't see any further ones in the chat, but if someone posts them, I'll let you know.
Great, thank you. Okay, so just like magic, I told you it was 40 minutes, and it has been not quite that long. However, we do have this one here that came out in the end where we have our potato crust on top, and then all of our product underneath here. So when we take it, we just want to like cut into it, and you can look, you still have your potato that's going to be soft, but you get a nice crust at the top of that. And then you just have your turkey product underneath it. And you want to bake it. So this one here took 45 minutes. And that's how long it took to get a nice even browning on the top of this, the mashed potatoes or the Duchess potatoes that we had for that. So at the end too, this was a total of 1 turkey thigh with about 2 cups worth of vegetables and then 2 cups worth of mashed potatoes at the end, just to make something a little bit more filling and a little bit more involved than just like heating up a plate in the microwave to do any of your leftover Thanksgiving stuff at the end. So that's more what you're looking for at the end. You do want to get that nice crust on top. What the crust does is it gives you a contrast in textures too. So you're going to have the underneath part, which should be like creamier, and then the top part, which should be crunchier, which is really important for doing this kind of finished product in the end. So that runs the gamut for all of that. And do you guys have questions about that at all? Sorry, I'm fighting with my stand.
No, sir, there doesn't seem to be any questions. No.
Okay, so let me just move this up here. Sorry, I haven't used this stand in a while. This is actually bringing me back to like COVID days when we used to do this a lot more like this. And we had to use this kind of stuff. But it's been a while for that. So I know we ran through some of the stuff that's involved in the other programs here. But just generally speaking, for culinary, we do have 3 programs within culinary arts. So we do culinary or the chef program. That's our savory cooking. We have our pastry program, and then we also have the restaurant management program as well. In each of those, you can do an Associates of Applied Science, or you can do a 1-year certificate in any of them. The continuing ed program does have classes that are just catering to like a specific topic. So it might have one on just bread making. So those questions you had about bread making, and you wanted to get some more just general knowledge, they'll have a class on that. One on just barbecuing and grilling, one on just French cuisine, one on just chocolate. So if you want to be more like casual, like home cook and just sort of increase your skills in one specific thing, those are really good for that. But again, you would talk to the continuing ed department because they're the one that organizes and coordinates those specific courses. So that's one thing that you can look at doing. So right now we're still working on getting our TABC or our liquor license for the restaurant. We're adding a feature to it because the restaurant management program is making its own beer right now. And we are adding a feature called a brew pub component to our liquor license, which would actually allow us to sell the beer that we're making in the program in the 1309 restaurant. That's something we're looking to do. And that just like more sprung from the aspect that there's a lot of breweries opening up in El Paso right now. Breweries are all over the place, and just giving our students an additional skill if they wanted to pursue that kind of work, because there's just a lot more opportunity in that field. And so a lot of the breweries are expanding, they're getting a lot bigger. We still have a lot of the small local ones. So we're looking to add that feature into the restaurant as well. I think I saw a question come up. Can you let me know what that is?
Yes, sir. They wanted to see if you would recommend a roux to make for mac and cheese.
Yes, you definitely want to use a roux to make mac and cheese. So if you're making a roux is equal parts butter and flour. You melt the butter and then you whisk in the flour to make a paste. And then you add your milk to that. You can do it regular stock too, but for mac and cheese, you would want to use milk. And what that's going to do is thicken it. And after the milk comes to a simmer, and you want to be constantly stirring it while you're making that base. So you constantly stir that, and then that's going to start to thicken it. It takes about 20 minutes, though. After it comes to a simmer, you have to simmer for 20 minutes to cook out the raw flour taste. And after that point in time, then you can just add any kind of cheese components that you want, depending on what you're looking for in your mac and cheese dish. You could use just milk and a whole bunch of cheese, but you will get additional flavor from using the roux. And when you're cooking it, it'll add a little bit of a nuttier flavor to it. Let's see. Yes, you can use evaporated milk for that, but I would recommend using regular but whole milk, not like 2% or 1%. Use whole milk for making that kind of dish because you want it to be, mac and cheese needs to be rich, or else it's not really mac and cheese. Other questions that you guys have?
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay. Well, I am going to hang out here. I know we have a couple minutes left, I believe. So if anyone has any other additional questions, please fill out the survey link that I saw pop up as well. I would appreciate that. I'm sure the TVE would appreciate it too. And just remember too, if you are interested in coming into the 1309 restaurant, we'll start again the last Thursday in January. But just email 1309, all caps, spelled out. So the word 13 spelled out, the letter O, and then the number 9 at epcc.edu.
You got some great comments. You got, I've learned so much today. Thank you. This was super awesome. Thank you so much for cooking.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well,
thank you all.
If we don't, do you have anything else you would like to add before we close up today, Chef Nickerson?
No, that is it. I was just leaving like the last 5 to 10 minutes just for Q&A stuff. But yeah, no, that's everything that I had.
All righty. I'm going to go ahead and I'll share our TVEs. I'd like to take a moment to thank Chef Nickerson for his presentation today and thank the audience for coming and joining us for lunch. So next week we won't be having a TVE because it'll be our Thanksgiving, and so we'll be off. And we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. But we will be back on December 6th for Happy Math Hour at 11 a.m. For both Math 1314 and Math 1324, we'll be going over final exam reviews. And then for the 1 o'clock session on December 6th, we'll be going on over how to improve your credit score with Mission Del Paso tutor Enrique Lechuga. And so we hope you have a wonderful weekend, some happy holidays, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.